What if Bayern Munich win the Champions League?
Who's going to win the Champions League?
No chance. Yes.
And the winner will be Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich to win it all.
Bayern winning it.
Bayern.
Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich, bro.
Bayern Munich! Bayern Munich!
This is not a fairy tale, because it's coming.
What an insane game we have just witnessed in Munich. A 6-4 the aggregate score to Bayern Munich.
Bayern, they are the only team now that can win the treble this season.
148 goals, but only conceded 41. Complete dominance in both attack and defence. This team doesn't play football, they're crushing their opponents.
Bayern, set piece. Kimmich takes it, and it's Goretzka who makes history. 102 Bundesliga goals, a team and a season, the likes of which the Bundesliga has never known until now. And they're not done yet. Olise! 103 comes in quick succession. They are lightning. They are devastating. They are Bayern.
The nightmare of the continent has awakened. The Bavarian has not just returned to reclaim the throne. They have returned to make all of Europe kneel in repentance for forgetting them.
Bayern Munich is so hungry this season. They are so hungry. They want this so badly.
Here is Harry Kane! But that came out of nothing!
Jackson's cross! And it's a sixth! Jamal Musiala gets his name on the score sheet.
Defeating the king of the Champions League, Real Madrid, in a truly convincing way. That's not luck, that's inevitable.
Bayern Munich have got probably more match winners in their team than Real Madrid have. So whichever way you want to look at this game, there's no question, this is Bayern Munich's to lose in my opinion. Because the way they're playing, the chances they create, every single game, this is not a fluke. This is what they do.
Has there ever been a more fitting way to end a pulsating Champions League night? All a little bit unsavoury from the men in white. It's been absolutely first class from those in red.
You don't face Bayern Munich, you're just delaying the undeniable defeat. Bundesliga, Champions League, no matter the competition, they dominate it. This is no longer just a strong team. This is a new standard.
Bayern Munich! Die Beste!
Bayern Munich win the Champions League? No. That's not the question. Here's the right one. Who can stop them winning the Champions League? There was a season when Bayern Munich were no longer themselves. They finished third in the Bundesliga 2023-24, watching Bayer Leverkusen rise to the top in the coldest way possible, going unbeaten for the entire season, ending a dominance that had lasted more than a decade. It wasn't just about losing the title. It was the moment all of Europe realised that this giant could be pulled down, could be replaced, and might have slowed down.
The Meisterschale in Leverkusen's hands for the first time. Bayern Leverkusen unbeaten across the board in the Bundesliga. New territory for a club in the top flight of German football.
And the Champions League could not hide that crack. Against Real Madrid, Bayern Munich were very close to the final. They controlled the game, they were leading, they were in the position of the winner until everything collapsed in just the final minutes. A 2-2 draw in the first leg, leading 1-0 in the second leg, then a 1-2 comeback defeat, losing 3-4 on aggregate.
Bellingham, Vinicius Junior, Mendy overlapping, that's comfortable. Oh, Neuer dropped it, and Hosselu scores! Kim only half away, Nacho of all people. Rudiger! Real Madrid have turned it around!
That was not a failure of talent. It was a failure because they could not control the game at the most important moment. And that very moment forced Bayern Munich to confront an uncomfortable truth. They could no longer rely on reputation, could not depend only on individual quality, and certainly could not win big games without controlling the tempo. Bayern did not react with panic. They did not patch things up hastily. They reset their entire way of operating. Vincent Kompany arrived not to make Bayern Munich more flashy, but to make them clearer. From structure, positional discipline, to the way they controlled the tempo of the game, everything was redefined. And once that foundation was set, pieces like Michael Olise, Luis Díaz and Harry Kane were not just quality signings, but became specific functions within a system. One creates chances, one breaks structure, and one finishes everything. The growth wasn't in talent, it was in control. Bayern Munich didn't become stronger because they added superstars. They became stronger because they learned how to control the game before the game controls them. And when a team that once collapsed due to losing control begins to dominate every rhythm on the pitch, what comes next is no longer just a simple comeback, but a sign that something far more dangerous is taking shape.
In by Stanisic, Harry Kane!
And Stanisic was up there, and it's a cracking goal from Olise! Michael Olise! Stanisic through to Díaz. Oh, Díaz, brilliant from Luis Díaz!
When a team that once collapsed due to losing control begins to relearn how to control every rhythm on the pitch, then feeling is no longer what defines the story. Data is what says it all. Harry Kane, 50 goals, 6 assists. Not 20, not 30, but 50 goals in just over 40 games, an output at an absolutely destructive level. Alongside him, Luis Díaz delivers 24 goals and 15 assists. This is a piece that brings both depth and the speed to break defensive lines. And Michael Olise contributes 43 direct goal involvements, becoming the main creative source of the entire system. 3 players, 138 goal involvements across all competitions. This is no longer just an efficient attack, this is a multi-layered attacking system, where each player solves a different problem of the game.
That are absolutely flying this season. Harry Kane, obviously, on a ludicrous. Michael Olise, obviously, with the 21 assists as the main creative engine of the team, and Luis Díaz has added so much to this group.
And more importantly, these numbers are not coming from easy games. In the Champions League, they have just eliminated Real Madrid with a 6-4 aggregate score, a tie where every mistake had a price. But Bayern Munich showed Real Madrid who the real king is.
Tonight in Munich, it's finished Bayern 4, Real Madrid 3. Bayern win the tie 6-4.
Not because they are perfect, but because they have too many ways to punish their opponents. And when you put all of that together, it is very hard to call this form. It feels more like a system that has reached a point where it is not just working well, but is starting to become uncontrollable for the rest.
Luis Díaz goal, the Olise goal, even the Harry Kane goal was probably the most meh of the lot. Even that was a brilliant finish. It was just sensational.
The question now is no longer how many goals they score. It is about who they truly are on the pitch. This is Bayern Munich under Vincent Kompany. A team that no longer plays in chaos, does not rely on individual moments, and does not need a single star to define how they win. Harry Kane does not just score, he becomes the link, constantly dropping deep to stretch the defence and shape the way Bayern Munich build up. Michael Olise operates as the creative brain, receiving between the lines and deciding the direction of every attack. And Luis Díaz is the final blade, attacking space and turning small advantages into goals. What's important is that these 3 roles are not separate. They connect like a chain reaction, where every small action creates a bigger consequence behind it. And that is exactly why Bayern Munich don't need to force you into defeat from the start. They just need to pull you out of position, make you adjust, then pull you one step further until space appears in a way you can no longer control. And when that happens enough times in a game, you begin to realise that Bayern don't win because they create moments. They win because they control the process that leads to those moments. So how do they do it? The answer lies in very specific mechanisms within how they operate. Harry Kane is no longer just a number 9 waiting inside the box. He drops deep, gets on the ball, connects the lines, and in doing so pulls the entire defensive line out of its original position. That space becomes the trigger for the whole attacking sequence, because when the ball is played into the half space for Michael Olise, the opponent is forced to collapse inward to contain it. And with just that single shift, the original defensive structure is already no longer intact. From there, everything happens very quickly. Once the system has been pulled out of shape, Luis Díaz starts bursting into depth, pushing the fullback back and stretching the distance between the lines even further. And at that moment, Bayern's second line has the space to step up, receive the ball, or deliver the final action. But what keeps this entire chain from breaking down lies deeper, where Joshua Kimmich and Aleksandar Pavlovic control the rhythm, constantly adjusting the tempo, breaking the opponent's pressing, and ensuring that Bayern Munich always dictate the direction of the play. And when all of those mechanisms operate together, you begin to realise the problem is no longer about how Bayern Munich create chances. It is that the opponent has almost no way to deal with the entire system all at once.
You look at that Bayern Munich squad and you're thinking, Kompany's got every one of them knowing what they're doing at the right time, and it's so well coordinated. The way they attack in waves, the way they get into the box in waves, the way they can play through so many teams decisively.
Bayern Munich are not just strong. They are a tactical problem. When you try to lock down Harry Kane, you are forced to pull a centre-back out of position. And immediately, the space behind becomes the stage for Michael Olise. But if you choose to stay compact to deny Olise the ball, you end up opening depth for Luis Díaz to exploit. If you press, one small timing mistake in your approach is enough for Bayern Munich to break the first line and immediately transition into attack with open space. But if you drop deep and set up a low block, your structure will be stretched little by little until the distance between the lines can no longer be maintained. And when you lose the ball, that is the most dangerous moment. Bayern don't need many touches. They don't need long build-up sequences. They exploit that moment of chaos to finish the move before you can reorganise. What makes everything so frustrating is this: there is no safe option. Every defensive choice solves one problem, but at the same time creates a bigger one. And that is why, even when you are playing well, keeping your structure, even controlling parts of the game, the question still remains here. How far can that system actually hold when it steps onto the big stage? And that is exactly when Real Madrid showed up.
Yeah, look, we put ourselves in a position to do that. We feel like we've had a fantastic season so far. We feel in a good place. We feel fit. We feel strong. The whole squad is fit, and we just have to keep that energy.
It is no longer the Bundesliga, no longer matches where you can impose your rhythm from start to finish. This is the Champions League, where just one moment of lost control can make everything collapse instantly. Bayern Munich enter this tie not as a team in form, but as a system that must be tested under the highest pressure. And in a match where every single action can become a turning point, they still score. They still get dragged into chaos. But most importantly, they do not lose their structure. They win, not because they controlled the match completely, not because they made no mistakes, but because even when the game became pure chaos, their system remained clear enough to bring them back onto the right track. And that is the moment everything gets proven.
Corner in from Kimmich. Oh, it's got in! Threading it through for Harry Kane! Díaz. He has a shot, and it is a magnificent shot. Thinking about that, he's thinking about another, and he's got another!
Not by feeling, not by form, but by structure, the thing that kept them standing when everything around them started to collapse. Bayern Munich are most dangerous not in how long they keep the ball, but in how precisely they know when to strike the opponent's weak point. They do not attack in constant waves from start to finish. They pull the opponent's defensive system forward, force it to shift out of sync by a single beat, then attack directly into the space left behind the full back. That is where the game starts to slip out of control for the other team. What makes Bayern Munich more frustrating than any other team is that they don't need a perfect sequence to inflict damage. They can lure opponents into pushing high, then cut through the first pressing line. They can also force opponents into a deep block, then patiently stretch it until it cracks on its own. High pressing is broken by escape rhythm. Low block is dismantled by width and depth. The more you try to lock them down, the more space appears somewhere else. That is why Bayern are not just a good playing team. They are a team that makes every defensive choice come at a cost. And that is why, when the game enters its most difficult phase, Bayern often don't need to do too much. They just wait for the first misalignment, then strike.
Bayern Munich are the favourites, in my opinion, for the Champions League this season. They look the most dangerous team going forward. They probably look the most complete team, I would say. And yeah, that level of attacking talent is a huge, huge reason why.
Of course, Bayern Munich are not invincible. When the tempo is disrupted, when the game is dragged into broken sequences or constant transitions, they no longer maintain the same fluency as in ideal conditions. The match against Real Madrid is also an example of that. And it is important to remember, this is not a Real Madrid at their best form. And in the Champions League, where everything is decided over two legs, knockout pressure can always distort even the most stable systems. That is why PSG become a real test. Under Luis Enrique, they are not just a team of individual brilliance, but a collective capable of generating controlled chaos. Vitinha dictates tempo with extreme precision. Achraf Hakimi constantly creates pressure down the right flank. Kvicha Kvaratskhelia brings unpredictability in tight spaces, and Ousmane Dembélé is a direct threat with speed and unpredictability. And precisely because PSG are this strong, this semi-final carries real value. Because this is not a case of one team dominating the other, but a match where two systems capable of breaking each other exist within the same game.
PSG Bayern semi-final is just...
feels like the final.
It feels like the two best teams in the competition.
There is one team that is able to stop this Bayern Munich team that we're speaking so highly of. You could argue that it could be PSG.
If there's ever a challenger for this PSG side, I'm looking at Bayern Munich and saying, hey, they can do that.
But even there, Bayern Munich still have a basis to progress. They are not only good enough to compete, they have already gone through this exact type of match and survived it. Beating Real Madrid was not just a victory, but proof that they can maintain structure in the most chaotic moments. When you place that alongside the fact they are leading the Bundesliga and maintaining a very high-scoring output, PSG becomes a major test, but not an absolute limit. I do not see PSG as an easy opponent. On the contrary, they are one of the most uncomfortable teams Bayern Munich can face at this stage. They have pace, technique, and the ability to break the structure of any system. But Bayern currently have something very few teams possess at the same time. A system operating smoothly, a front three performing at peak efficiency, and a mental state built from the very setback they experienced before. They have gone through a tense knockout tie and come out of it. They are controlling the domestic league. They are scoring at a rate that most of Europe cannot keep up with. The story is no longer about how strong Bayern Munich are. The real question is shifting in a different direction. It is not, are Bayern good enough? It is, who is capable of slowing them down? Who can break the rhythm of a machine operating exactly in the state it needs to win a title? If PSG cannot do it, if they cannot pull Bayern Munich out of structure, cannot force the game into a different direction, and if Bayern continue to maintain their current tempo, their control, their finishing, their ability to turn small moments into differences, then this is no longer just a good season. This is the moment all of Europe has to face an uncomfortable truth. Bayern Munich are not back to compete. They are back to end the game. If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.